In other news now, and can the US fix relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia? Well, President Biden this week hinted at a potential normalization of relations days after a second visit of America's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to Jeddah for talks with Saudi officials. The Biden administration is pushing ahead with a realignment of the Middle East politics, bringing two historic adversaries together. But what does this mean for other nations in the region, particularly Palestine? Jody Cohen has this report.
Following the 2020 Abraham Accords between Israel and the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco and Sudan, there have been rumours that normalisation with Saudi Arabia could be on the cards at some point. So what's at stake for each of the players involved? Saudi Arabia is said to be seeking a NATO-like security treaty with Washington, a civil nuclear program monitored and backed by the United States, to buy the third anti-ballistic missile defense system from the US, and for significant Israeli concessions to the Palestinians, such as a freeze on Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank to keep prospects of a two-state solution alive. Upon returning to office, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that normalisation with Saudi Arabia was one of his government's top priorities. He believes this will ultimately help to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Any deal could also involve a pause in further judicial reform without internal agreement in Israel, suggesting a potential way out of the current polarisation on this issue. For the Palestinians, normalisation would reportedly not only include Israeli concessions, but could also include an unprecedented Saudi aid package to institutions in the West Bank. However, President Abbas is not likely to be happy that the deal isn't expected to include an agreement on an actual Palestinian state. As for the US, as well as a freeze on Israeli settlements, it's likely to want Riyadh to distance itself from China and Iran and help end the civil war in Yemen. A normalisation deal would also be a significant win for Biden ahead of the 2024 elections. And in May, Sullivan said that it was a US national security interest. I spoke with Aryeh Lightstone, former US envoy for the Abraham Accords, about how likely this deal is to happen.
Here's my take on this specifically. Israel and Saudi don't have issues, certainly not public issues. Privately, they work very well together on essential components such as security and even more. The question is whether will there be warm peace or will there just be an extenuation of peace on a piece of paper? And that comes down to President Biden has not yet invited the Prime Minister of Israel to come to Washington, D.C. formally and officially for a specific date. And President Biden just a year ago, when he went to go visit the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, the deliberation was he going to shake his hand or give him a fist bump? So once you can't decide how warmly to embrace both of the allies that you need to come together, that gives me a little bit of skepticism.
Normalisation is still seen as a long shot. There are many factors at play, and lining up all the chess pieces won't be easy. For example, would the Palestinian Authority, which opposed previous normalisation deals, oppose this one? Israel's government includes ultra-nationalists who are not expected to give concessions to the Palestinians or give up on judicial reform easily. Saudi Arabia would need to shift public opinion when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and President Biden would have to sell the deal to Congress and his supporters, having pledged in his 2020 campaign to make the Saudi kingdom a pariah over human rights. Time is also short, with commentators suggesting that such a deal would need to be made before November, when President Biden is expected to launch his re-election campaign. This is Jody Cohen for WION World is One.